What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Bayview Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Andrew, joined, as always, by Chris and Richie.
You're already laughing and smiling, and we haven't even got to the actual introduction yet.
And I'm really happy you guys are here.
Yeah,
apparently so. I'm glad you're glad.
Yeah, I couldn't come up with anything creative. I'm sorry. So
all right.
I just wanted to say that you guys are here, and it makes me happy that you guys are here. So,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to be here as
I
well.
mean, I look forward to this each and every week.
Yeah, good times. And today, this isn't a fun topic, I guess, but we are finishing our Go series, which was, I think, a really awesome series Sunday morning, talking about going just to different circles in our life, those that are, close. Like, how do we influence those who are closest to us, family, friends, workplace? We talked about influencing those or just being in community, doing life with those that we might have biases towards, and what does that look like? And then this last week, we kind of wrapped it up with this whole idea of what about the circles that are closed off? Like, what does it look like to actually engage with those areas of our life with people who maybe they're anti-Jesus, maybe they legitimately just don't believe anything we believe, or there's almost like a sense of animosity maybe, and Chris, you kind of walk down that path of what does that look like? What does it mean for us? And I think there's different angles we could come at it from, and there's different realities to it and like with most things. But yeah, I thought Sunday you killed it. But
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think for a lot of us, I don't want to say it's brand new because it's not new, but it's growing. I think for a lot of us now, we live in a country where we are recognizing that the open hostility towards Christianity and Christian values is growing by leaps and bounds. And it's almost like somewhere in our recent past, this permission was given that let's get after them. Mm-hmm. And I was reading an article, and it was a really great article in the Washington Stand, and it was talking about this, and it says this, like, was one of the quotes. It says, "As the mainstream culture moves farther and further away from Christian worldview, Christian beliefs that contradict progressive secular values are increasingly denounced by the culture and wrongly portrayed as being hateful or bigoted." And it's like, yeah, that's kind of how it feels, that the world is wanting to adopt this pluralistic morality, this progressive view of life, and even progressive view of Christianity and the Bible, and adapt it all to match the lifestyles and choices they're wanting to make. And so those of us that are committed to what's now kind of the best, most common term is the traditional Christian values, we're on the receiving end now. And that's challenging. And it's, for some of us, I think it's angering. I think for some of us, it's frustrating. It's saddening. But now we have to decide what is our response and how will we engage these people? Because as we've talked about, and you guys preached in this series as well, we are called to go. Yeah. And in Acts 1:8, when Jesus says, go to Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, those represent the three circles of influence we've talked about, those that are familiar and close, those that are in our region and maybe a little more foreign to us, and then ultimately those that we would deem anti-God. Even, I guess the best description would be those that are enemies of the gospel. Mm-hmm. But the call to go is very clear. So I think that's kind of where we want to kind of break down a little bit of how do we engage and go in a Jesus way.
Yeah.
And what are some of the danger zones that maybe we might get sucked into that are not part of this mission?
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, as we were, just chatting about it for a few moments earlier today, one of the things that came to mind is kind of we're entering into this era of like modern crusade almost, where it's like we're going to force these people to live like us. And, there aren't Christians running around trying to like take back Jerusalem right now in the way they did, like in the historical Crusades. However, in a certain respect, there is this narrative that goes around a lot of different places. It's happening in churches, online, through the media. Like everywhere you look, you can find this narrative if you really look for it of we've got to take back this country and make it Christian again. And the idea of making the country Christian from the perspective of I'm going to go and take the gospel and pray that people get saved by the power of the Spirit through faith in Jesus Christ so that they become Christian, and then over time our nation becomes more Christian because more people are Christian. That's like the mentality that we're talking about, that we're about as a church, right?
Yes, very much so.
But there's a secondary kind of like underlying thing that you really got to sometimes read between the lines about that says, no, we don't care if they get saved or not. We just don't want them. We want them to act like us, whether they're saved or not. And that's a very different mindset that we can very easily fall into, because when we see people or come across people that are anti-God, it's uncomfortable. It feels scary. It can feel threatening in a lot of ways. And our natural response is to fight back and to impose our will, right? Like I think about when Jesus was getting arrested and Peter immediately pulls his sword out, right?
Oh, yeah. So good.
And he's like, all right, let's fight. Let's go. It's battle time.
Yeah.
And Jesus is like, what are you doing? Like that's literally the opposite of what I want to happen right now.
Yeah.
But sometimes we do that same thing, right? Like
Absolutely.
we pull the sword out and we're like, okay, well, I'm going to force you into what feels good to me or feels right to me, versus maybe just like try and find a creative way to build a relationship or to, demonstrate that I care about you, even though we have different beliefs.
Yeah. And I think in that scenario, and that word picture of Peter and his sword is so applicable. It's so perfect. In that scenario, really what we're doing is we're going to battle and we're fighting this war with the goal that they will relent and surrender, but they're not surrendering to Jesus. They're relenting and surrendering to us.
Yeah.
And we're looking for that moment where they'll confess not their sins to Jesus, but they'll confess their views are wrong and we are right.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. I feel like in a lot of ways, I just keep thinking of like Richie's message about bias, and it's like we're almost talking now about us responding to those who have bias against us.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that bias, like what we're finding, even I like look on some social media stuff and all that, is there's this sense of, because it's always been spoken about from a right versus wrong perspective, when someone comes and says like, well, they're not a real Christian, or the response of like, oh, someone who is like the issue that we're running into now is people are like, no, you don't get it though. They believe they are a real Christian. So when they say stuff like, you're wrong, I hope you don't go to hell, or it's going to suck, like almost this feigning of sadness for someone, it comes across as like, well, that's just what people believe. That's what we're about as Christians. And like, that's almost the bummer now of like that we're trying to come up against, is when we have avoided genuine relationship and caring for the person in order to just be right, it really has undermined a lot of the gospel, but a lot of work. It's making it now harder, like essentially. Chris, you talked on something like, we can know we're right. Like we can trust that, what Jesus did in his death, and that this life is better. But again, if only ever engaged with people from that perspective, then I'm just kind of, I don't want to use the word bully, but it's like there's just that's kind of what we're beginning to hear people say is the feeling that we're giving off in some ways. Yeah.
I think it comes back, then we have to continue to do a deep assessment in our own hearts of, well, what is my agenda in these interactions? And we did talk about that Sunday a little bit of like, well, the call, the command is to go love, right? Go love God, love your neighbors yourself, and love your enemies. So a call becomes one big people group that really removes the barriers. It's everybody. So my neighbor, my enemy, friends are all, it's everything. And if my agenda is to win or to defeat them, to fight them, none of those lead to this Jesus experience. Yeah. If my goal is to be right, it was that quote from Dallas Willard in his book, Divine Conspiracy. I'll read it so I don't get it wrong, but one of the hardest things in the world is to be right and not hurt other people with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what you're talking about. I think the church and church people, we've caused a lot of hurt under the guise that we think we're sharing the gospel.
Yeah. And I think it is like like growing up in church, there's like this, man, I'm trying to remember like when it kind of was a thing, right? It's like, but there's this like whole kind of like movement situation, like around the time of like seeker sensitive stuff and all that, like late 90s, early 2000s, where it was like, hate the sin, love the sinner kind of became a phrase that people started to use a lot. And now looking back, it's like, oh, that was kind of cheesy or whatever, but it's a reality, right?
Yeah.
The phrase is what it is, but it is a reality of like, yeah, it breaks my heart to see the destruction that you're living in, right? Because of the sin of your life. But what right or help am I if I beat you over the head about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If I pretend as if I was never in your place and just tell you how to live your life. Because at that point, what we're doing is, rather than providing the grace and mercy of salvation in Jesus, we're mandating an ethic on somebody, right? Like we're bringing a morality to them, which isn't just a Christian thing. Yes, there are Christian morals, but every group of people that's ever existed has had a moral that they've lived by. Mm-hmm. Muslims have a moral, right? Mm-hmm. Sharia law is like a Muslim moral. We could mandate a moral on them, but is that going to transform their life?
Right.
Is that going to pull them out of the destruction of sin and death? No, it never can and it never will, right? That's why the law is ineffective to save us.
Correct.
Is because all it does is demonstrate that we cannot meet the moral expectation of a perfect holy God. Mm-hmm. And so, when I come to be correct, or I come to be right, or I come with the intention of trying to put you into a moral box where you're going to make the right choices all the time, all I've done is create like a Christian light person. I haven't actually helped somebody become a Christian. And so there's a big difference between morality and righteousness. Mm. And you can be a very moral person and not be righteous, because righteousness only comes through faith in Jesus Christ. It's not from the works that you can do. And so that's just kind of like the fine line we have to walk, is like, are certain things wrong? Yes. Like that's not we have to guess about that thing, right? That's what, like you're saying, like we can know we're right about this, that this is right or wrong because the Bible says so. But do we care more about that right or wrong choice, decision, activity, or do we care more about the righteousness that comes from knowing Jesus Christ, the righteousness that we've received that doesn't belong to us, has been gifted to us? And do we want that same experience for people out in the world who hate God or who hate Christians?
Yeah, I always think of the Bible seems to always paint Pharisees as very like sad or mad or like distant. And whenever someone comes to Jesus or is healed by Jesus or is interacting with him, there is like a joy to them. And I think that's what we're talking about. It's like we can give you a list of things to follow, laws on top of laws on top of laws on top of rules to make your life better so that you feel like you're doing the right thing.
Yep.
But if you've not actually met Jesus, there's no joy in that. Mm-hmm. And then that's the question. I was like, how did you come to know Christ in the first place? Was it through just a mandation of laws, or was there an actual like the grace that is given freely, and you receive that and that changed your life? And I think that's, for me, that's been a big heart shift, is realizing like I can't save people. So if every interaction I ever have is I'm just trying to save this person, well, that makes sense. Then I'm just trying to get right to this is why you're wrong, this is what's right, and I'm missing the person. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where Jesus saw the person. It's like Chris started on Sunday, like going to the places and being a part of communities and interacting with those. That's what he would do. Like that's what he was about, because he was more interested in the person in their heart than just making sure they could do a checkbox and believe they were right.
Yeah. And it comes back, I think it's a phrase we've used a few different times, but it's the difference between behavior modification and heart transformation.
Yeah.
And legalism and law following it potentially could change your behaviors.
Yeah.
Where you look like us and maybe you act like us. And if that's our agenda, is to get somebody to clean their life up so that they do the things we think they should do and they act the way we think they should act, that makes us feel better. What we're really doing is it's really nothing to do with that person. It's all about us.
Yeah.
It's so that I feel that I am right, that to be honest, I feel like I've won this.
Yeah.
And there's no Jesus in that. It's all a facade. It's all just, it's what Jesus talks about when he talks about to the Pharisees and the religious leaders of like, listen, you're so focused on cleaning the outside of the cup.
Mm-hmm.
And you can clean the outside of the cup all you want. The inside is still filthy dirty.
Yeah.
And that's what religion can do. That's what, you mentioned other religions. Yeah, other religions can also accomplish that same thing.
Yeah.
But no Christian would be like, well, yeah, just follow what the Muslim, standards are, and you'll be fine. We wouldn't say that because there's not a Jesus in there.
Yep.
But the reality is we're still pitching some of those same ideas, and there's still no Jesus in it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're trying to change them. We're trying to do the work.
Yeah, exactly.
And you used your word earlier, Richie, that I thought was so perfect for this. It's the word righteousness. And there's got to be, we are not the source of righteousness.
Mm-hmm.
And our goal is not to, we can't force righteousness on somebody.
Yeah.
And I think that's where all of us, and honestly, Sunday was a heart check for myself as well as we went through some of these things, because I know that I'm asking God to help me process through some of my biases that I know have crept in over the years that I have been living with, checking my heart on what's my agenda. I'll be honest with you, I love to be right.
Yeah.
Like, I love to be right. I love if a fact is thrown out there. In fact, to the point where it drives my wife crazy, and it's to a fault. Like, it's probably not even a healthy thing. Like, she'll say something and I'll immediately doubt it. And she's crazy smart and super wise, and I'm Googling over there because I just got to be right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's such an anti-gospel approach, an anti-Jesus approach to engaging these people groups that are not for this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're closed, but we're still called to go.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's such a big part of it. Like you're just saying, right, is like our job is to go and to provide the gospel to them, not to save them, right? And what does that look like to take the gospel to them, right? Well, I think in so many ways, it's if we've been given the righteousness of Christ, now we are a new creation, is to just go out living like we're a new creation.
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
Absolutely.
go out in the fruit of the Spirit,
Yeah.
and to just demonstrate the fruit of your life in everywhere you go, right? It doesn't just belong in the church building or at home. It belongs everywhere you go. If you are a tree of the Lord, then your fruit will be there wherever you are in the world. And so just like checking your heart as you go to places where there are going to be people in opposition. Just be like, man, my war is not against them, right? Like the Bible tells me I'm fighting an unseen war, but that's what it talks about when it talks about a fight. I'm in a fist fight, but it's with darkness. It's not with people. Yeah. And these people have been, just like I was, they are still under the realm of darkness. And that's why they're just acting the way they're supposed to act based on where their allegiance lies. So my fight's not with them, it's with these unseen things. And I think that's a big part of it for me, is when I go places where I'm like, I just have a hard time with this group of people, or I know these people are going to roll their eyes at me, or they're going to act weird because they know I'm a Christian or whatever. That's kind of my first stop. And maybe you guys can share something that like maybe you do to kind of in these situations, like, God, help me to remember that I am at war. It's with the unseen things that have caused this to be reality, not with the people who are in this reality. That's good. And those are like two different things. I got to remember that.
Yeah, no, that's super good. Yeah, and I think when I find myself in that place, and there's a certain amount of decision or intentionality that, at least for me, I've got to make sure I'm putting myself in that mindset and that heart set before I even go out anywhere, really, of like, all right, God, give me the eyes to see, give me the heart to feel, and let me follow your example. And of course, Jesus gave us the most incredible example, because I don't think there's a single people group that existed during Jesus's ministry that would fall in those circles that are far from God or close to God. And I don't think there's a single group that he did not engage one-on-one.
Yeah.
I mean, we see it all listed so clearly. I mean, he was with the prostitutes and the drunkards. He was spending time and hanging out with them. He was going out to those that were considered the worst sinners. You know, the woman caught in adultery. You know, tax collectors. He was going out to he touched lepers, which was against the law, and he shows us. And he never went in wielding the gospel like a weapon to come in and just pile drive them down. Mm-hmm. He went in and would spend time with them, and he would engage them, and he would hear about their life, and he would talk, and through those moments that presented itself through those dialogues, he would have the times and the open opportunities to speak truth and love into those moments. Mm. And I think that we get impatient. I think we want people to change fast and immediately, and what just be done. And I think you said, you know, we reflect on, well, maybe you said earlier, I can't remember, how did I come to Christ? Well, it's not only that, but how's my process been with my walk with Jesus? Yeah. Well, it's been a slow burn over the last 40 years, right? I mean, I think I'm coming up on, I think it was, roughly when I had that surrender moment with Jesus in my early 20s. Mm-hmm. It's been a process, and here's the deal: it's still a process. Yeah. So I'm all about the patience in his process with me, but I need you to do this much faster.
Yeah.
You know,
catch up. Yep.
You really need to clip through this in a few weeks. Yeah. Like, hey, I get the 40-year plan. You've got the 4-week plan. Yeah. And again, I think maybe I'm just talking to myself. I think so much of that comes back around so that, again, I feel good.
Mm. Yeah. I try to think people first, and there's an urgency to the gospel, right? Like we want, that's like kind of what you're saying. I feel like saying, Chris, like we want people to like be a part of this and understand this and grow into this. And so I think, you know, in school we took a class that was all about evangelizing, and Ray Comfort and some of these guys, and if you're a big fan of that name or whatnot, I'm sorry, but like we were taught this stuff to be like, hey, did you watch the game last night? And have this conversation with someone about like the baseball game that was on, and oh yeah, great game, and then be like, oh yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, if you died tonight, where would you go? Yeah. And I remember just thinking, I was like, can I not just talk about the game with the person?
Yeah.
And like, can I not just like build a relationship and like live a life with the person that's like normally engaging? But I think, Richie, you said just like live a life that hopefully is an example of Christ, and let that do just as much communicating as the words I'm saying. And I don't know, I more times than not, I've had Jesus conversations with people who I've built a relationship with over people who I asked if they died tonight, are they going to heaven or hell?
Sure. Absolutely.
But I don't think that's lessened the urgency in those conversation relationships, but it's been way more fruitful. Mm-hmm. And I think that's when going to engage and have conversation or just be with people, like, man, can I just think of the person first?
Yep.
And go from there?
Yeah, I think that's so key, right? Because I know for me, sometimes I don't do a good job of this, but to mark the difference between all of us having a call to evangelize and some of us being called and gifted as evangelists, right? And
very much so.
There are some people that could, on a dime, turn a conversation spiritual, and it just is right. It's correct. Like, that's their spiritual gifting at work in a special, unique way that God has given them to do. Mm-hmm. But for a lot of us, we don't have that like spiritual ability to just like meet someone for the first time and then get saved the same day. Mm-hmm. We are on kind of like the long-term plan of like, I'm going to find some level of common ground here, and we're going to chat about that. And I'm just going to pray every single time I know I'm going to see this person. I'm just going to pray that God, at some point, just help me to see the right moment to talk about my faith, to talk about you, to offer to pray, whatever it is you want me to do. Like, help me just to be there at the right time, at the right moment. I'm going to trust you for that. And it might be the awkward thing where it's just like you feel prompted to just be like on a dime, be like, if you died tonight, where would you go?
Yeah.
But the likelihood is that you're going to find a band that you like, that you both like, or a sports team that you both like, or a movie that you both, something like that is going to come up, and you're going to hit it off in that area.
Yep.
And especially if they're opposed to God, that right there is going to be a bridge that the Lord is going to use at some point to give you the opportunity to speak about something spiritual and for them to be able to receive it.
Yeah.
Because you didn't just try and put it on them right away. And also because they're like, oh, but you're just a person though.
Yeah.
Like, we both like that TV show. We both like that band.
Yeah.
Why this feels different than maybe what I thought it would to interact with a Christian person.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's like, you don't got to be a car salesman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I know someone has an agenda, and it's like, can you just pray beforehand? Can you like be prepared?
Yeah.
Always be prepared to give testimony or speak to it. I 100% agree with that, but can I not have an agenda with someone when I interact with them and trust that the Holy Spirit's going to show up when he needs to show up, and trust that I will be prepared and that I do care. It's like, I think our agendas can become really obvious to people, and especially someone who, like Richie just said, who wants nothing to do with God. I'd rather look at that relationship as I am tilling the soil. I'm planting a seed. I'm not concerned about the claim that I can't wait to get a jewel on my crown because I saved that person. That mentality is so backwards, because I didn't do it's like we said, I'm not the one doing the saving anyways.
Yeah.
And so I think it's almost like just take a deep breath and like trust that's where the Holy Spirit comes into play so much. It's like, remove yourself.
Yeah.
Allow him to do what only he can do.
And it's that old pastoral illustration that's somewhere in a big book. In my office, I've got, maybe your dad's had this, and my dad gave me mine. It's like the biggest book you've ever seen. And it's like 7,000 sermon illustrations.
Yeah.
It's like the big maroon book. Like, seriously, the thing's got to be like 12 inches bound. It's insane. And I think in there somewhere is this illustration that I remember reading that no farmer has ever grown anything. Farmers don't grow a thing. They don't have the power to make that seed sprout and grow. A farmer creates the environment for things to grow.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where we continue to come back, is like, we don't save anybody. We don't change anybody. We're the ones that set the environment for the Holy Spirit to come in and speak to their heart and for them to have this Jesus encounter. And that's the difference, I think, between the agreed urgency of the gospel versus the impatience of religion, almost. The impatience is like, hey, come on, do it my way. What you're saying about the Crusades, well, if you're going to say no, cool, I'm moving on. In the Crusades, it was like, well, if you don't convert, then you die.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that, but it's kind of the same mentality of like, well, fine, moving on, you're dead to me now.
Yep.
The other side of it is, I think the urgency for all of us is that we don't miss the opportunities.
Sure.
That when we're having those conversations.
Don't shy away from being willing to have the conversation, not shying away from willing to engage with those people. Like, I think that's what you were saying. Like, we see the stores with the flags in the window or some of that, and we're like, well, I could never shop there. I know they have what I need in that business, but if I walk into that place, I'm going to hell too. And it's like, whoa, like that. But some of us think that way.
We do.
That's a very dramatic, and it's like, I think the urgency is, I'm going to live my life for Christ and trust that that's going to be seen by people, and I will always be able to give an answer. But I'm not going to walk around, like I said, a car salesman.
No. There's actually a store here in town that rarely has anything I need. It's a cool store, but maybe I've bought something there before. But yeah, it's got, all the different flags that represent everything, because everybody has a flag now. But I go in there intentionally, just looking for opportunities to have loving interactions with the store owners. I know they don't believe how I believe, and there has yet to be a moment where I've revealed that I'm a pastor or anything like that. But those moments, those conversations will never come if I keep walking past their door.
Yeah.
Like, they'll never come. And I think that's where maybe another place we've gone as Christians is like, well, if we just ignore it and don't acknowledge it, well, then everything's fine. I'm not being mean to them. I'm not lashing out. We're not getting in a fight. We're not not condemning. I'm doing nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And I think we have also decided that also leads to something, and that will never lead to something. Like, you'll never have a good conversation in the conversations you never had.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for me, making sure that I am saying, okay, God, don't help me to not miss the opportunities that you're putting in my path. And they don't always lead to some great conversion story. Sometimes they do, and I love hearing those stories.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. There are some people out there, they can make anything happen.
Yeah.
One of the speakers I worked with at Forge Ministries for years, he's still there, Adrian Dupre. That dude can turn any conversation into a Jesus moment in the most beautiful, healthy way. Like, I sat there and watched him. We were both speaking at an event somewhere a few years ago, and we were literally in this Zaxby's parking lot, like at 11 o'clock at night, and there was these hooligans in the parking lot hanging out, doing what teenagers do, and I'm walking to my car, and I get to my car, and I turn around, and AD, he's over there. I'm like, bro, like, I want to go to bed. And by the time I got over there, man, he was already deep in conversation with these dudes, and it was so cool.
Yeah.
And some of us have that. I think for most of us, it's all right, am I available in the moments where you're setting it up for me?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a situation I went through several summers ago. I've shared this in some messages before, but I was at the end of a very long summer of speaking events, and I was getting ready to head out to the West Coast for one last camp I was speaking at. And I had to fly all the way from here in Traverse City all the way out to Spokane. And I was tired. I didn't want to go. I mean, it's fine doing the camp. I was just exhausted. So I got to my flight, and my goal really was to get to my seat, to put on my headphones, and not talk to anybody. Like, that was my goal, straight up. And I got boarded early. I got sat down, and I'm hurrying to get into my backpack and get out my headphones. I had the big noise canceling ones that said "Don't talk to me."
Yeah.
And I get them out of my bag, and as I'm pulling them out, my seatmate comes, and so I have to put him back down, and he sits next to me. No kidding, I did not have the time to grab those again before he starts talking to me, and I was so irritated. I was so bothered by this. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And he's just chatting my face off. I put my earphones down for a minute, and then the engine started up, and he got all super tense. And I think you've probably heard this story. He got all super tense. His name was Bob. And I look at him, and he was probably in early 60s. I'm like, Bob, I was like, have you flown before? He's like, no. And he's all nervous. I'm like, oh, bro. I was like, hey, man, this is fine, man. Like flying's fun. Like, it's going to be all good. And like, I was trying to talk him down off that ledge of like, we're going to be fine. Yeah. And he's like, no. He goes, I'm not nervous about the flying. He goes, I just don't know how to change planes. I've never been to other airports. I don't know how to do this. And I'm like, well, Bob, good news, bad news. Bad news is we're going to Chicago O'Hare, right? Worst airport to have to navigate anyway. But I knew my flight schedule was Traverse City, Chicago, Denver, and then on to Spokane. And I said, Bob, let me see your itinerary. And he was Traverse City, Chicago to Denver to somewhere in Idaho. And I said, Bob, how about this? How about you and I just hang out for the day? And I'll make sure you get to all your flights. And he instantly just, he relaxed. Then he got more chatty Cathy. So keep in mind, I'm still the guy. My agenda was to talk to nobody, and I didn't want to have any of these interactions. Yeah. And he began to share that he was on his way to go reconcile with his son in Idaho, who he had not spoken to in 10 years. Wow. Since he and his wife had gone through a messy divorce. And he's like, I feel like I need to go make things right before it's too late. And we got to Chicago, and we went and had a meal together, and we got on our flight, and I got boarded first, and I remember getting on the flight there in Chicago to go to Denver, and he stops by my seat. He goes, "No, you're not going to ditch me in Denver, right?" I'm like, "No, Bob, we're good, bro." And so I was waiting for him off the jetway in Denver, and I said, "Hey, man, one of the best airport Chinese restaurants is upstairs here in the United Terminal. Let's go eat some Chinese food." And we did that, and I walked him to his flight. I walked him to his gate like a kid being escorted almost, and we talked through that day. We talked about faith and religion and life, and I watched him walk on his flight. I gave him my email, and I've never heard back from Bob ever. But it was one of those moments like, man, I was so determined to not do that.
Yeah.
I was so determined to be about my own time, my own schedule, my own agenda. And God showed me what can happen if I will just be available. And I don't know what's happened with Bob's life since then. I would love to think that somewhere down the road, someone else maybe got to reap that seed that I pray was sown that day. But to me, it was a conviction. Like I walked away from that interaction feeling really, really good. And I felt the Holy Spirit kind of, I was on that moving sidewalk. I felt the Holy Spirit like, hey, good job, big guy. Yeah, you didn't want anything to do with that guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang it, you're right.
Yeah.
And that just lives in my head all the time in those moments of like, how many of those have I missed because I just want my agenda, my time.
Yeah.
And there's that, to me, that's the urgency.
Yeah.
Is we can't afford to miss opportunities.
100%.
Yeah.
And we can't afford to miss opportunities just to love people, to get into their life, to hear. Through those moments, I had chances to speak some Jesus into it. And it was awesome.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where we've got to decide, like, one, how am I expected to have Jesus conversations with people I have no intention of having a conversation with?
Yeah.
And when I'm in those moments, how do I just love them first and set up the environment for Jesus's love to come through at some moment? Because it's a supernatural thing, and we try to make it a natural thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. For me, I think that's where the church is called to engage.
100%.
Yeah, and I think too, even just like, listening to your story, it's like you only get opportunities like that if you're in places where there are non-Christians.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes we gloss over the fact that Paul talks about being in the world and not of it. And sometimes we can even look at that and be like, oh, that means that I'm never going to do all this other stuff. And we focus on the not of it part and like kind of leave out the in the world part. It's like, well, what he's saying is exactly what happens when Jesus meets the woman. Jesus had to go through Samaria to meet the woman at the well. And it says he had to go through Samaria. Paul had to go from city to city, town to town, where there were no believers, right? Like he was the first missionary. He was going places where no one had ever heard of Jesus before. People didn't know about the Jewish God at all, right? Like they had no context for the situation at all. And he was showing up me like, let me tell you about this guy who rose from the dead. And so he had to start from scratch with these people. Yeah. Well, in order to do that, he had to go to their public meeting places. He had to go to their markets. He had to go to where they were at, so he could have the opportunity to speak to them. And I think sometimes as believers, it can be really comfortable and really easy for us to build a life that is deeply insulated.
Yes.
Where it's like, I only shop at Hobby Lobby. I only eat out at Chick-fil-A, right? Like we find these like Christian institutions and we say, I only hire these people to do work at my house.
Yeah.
I only, you know what I mean? And it's really easy to do because it's comfortable. We know what to expect from those people and places, and they fit how we live our lives or how we want people to live their lives. And so we just like dive all in on that kind of stuff. And we can turn around and then look at the world and be like, oh, it's so awful and evil. It's like, well, that's just because you haven't been in it for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
You're just not used to it anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of been like this for a while, guys. Like, sure, it's changing over time. It looks different now, but the ideas that people have as people who are far from the Lord haven't really changed all that much. Like just read the Bible. It's kind of all in there.
Yeah.
And you just got used to not experiencing it at all or being close to it at all. And it's like, I've had a lot of friends where it's like, we've kind of lived our lives the opposite in the Henson house. We're almost the opposite, where it's like, we purposely don't go to Christian places because we're like intentionally trying to be part of the community or whatever. But I've also had a lot of Christian friends that are like, no, we won't go to the movie theater. They show bad movies there. And it's like, I mean, yeah, they do. Like, you don't have to go to those, but could you not still also be there? Right. Like,
right.
We won't shop at that store because they sell a product that we feel is inappropriate. It's like, okay, but that's the not doing the world stuff part. But the other part is you should still go there.
Yeah.
Like you should still have the opportunity to interact and be around people.
Yeah. I don't think we read the word boycott anywhere in the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And it's not in the Greek. Like there's not
Some of
somewhere.
it's in there somewhere. Yeah, we all know those stats of like, how few percentage Christians have ever shared their faith. And as you're talking, I was thinking about like, well, of those percentages that have never shared their faith, I'm curious how many of them. It's not that they're not willing. It's just that there's nobody in their circle that needs to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no reason to share it. The Christian bubble is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we're that same way. We look for opportunities just to go to places that are in no way, shape, or form Christian, and just it's just where everybody's going to be, and we look for these opportunities, and some of the most beautiful conversations have come out of those moments.
Yeah,
and it's just such a different mentality that I'm excited to see what happens as Christians continue to come alive to that and recognize that getting somebody to come to church with you and sit with you is a big deal.
Yeah, 100%.
yeah,
I would never downplay that. That's awesome. This last week we've talked about some individuals over here that, man, they're just fresh out of some really dark places, and a friend invited them, and they're like, well, at least I'll give church a try. They're going to hear the gospel, so I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if that's our only game plan, is, well, if they can get inside the four walls of the church, well, then maybe there's hope. No, there's hope when followers of Jesus take this light of the gospel message to every place they go. Mm-hmm. And every place they go, they look for these opportunities. Yeah. And then it starts happening then it starts happening all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's where now we're starting to see a movement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think now we're engaging these closed circles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, hey, thanks for being with us today. I hope this was encouraging to you, challenging. I know that this whole series has just been really challenging to me in my heart, and God's just doing a lot to just change my perspective. And I've just really, I've been challenged through all of this, and it's been good. I hope you have too. Hope you enjoyed it. If you've missed any of the messages in this series and you're intrigued, you can go to our website, bayviewchurch.net, and catch up on all our past messages, and go back and listen to Andrew's message on the circles close to us. Go back and listen to Richie's message on what is on this bias in these circles that we've closed, that aren't closed to us. We've closed them. And then, of course, just make sure you hit like or subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on, so you just never miss an episode of the podcast. We're here each and every week, and we appreciate your time. So for this week, I'm going to say this without laughing. It's Andrew. It's Richie. It's Chris. We're out of here. We'll see you next time around.